Right, everybody, welcome back to Assembly. And the weather really has been topsy-turvy. We just had that downpour just as the MGs went out. Not enough, though, I think, to really worry too many people. Coming up for the first race of the weekend, the Silhouettes, they just look so good as well, don't they? Let's have a quick chat with Philip Blackford here. We are a bit closer towards the back of the grid, but Philip, are we excited for this? Are we ready?
It depends on the weather.
Yeah.
It depends on... I had a problem in qualifying. I had to change the clutch after qualifying.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah,
you've done a good job then, haven't you, to get it back?
I had great help. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to repay some of their hard work to at least finish, I guess. So
at least finish, but I mean, the only way is forward, right?
You'd think so, yeah. I have been known to go backwards sometimes, so we'll wait and see.
That's right, Phil. Thanks for talking to us. Really appreciate it. Let's keep moving down a little bit. Shall we? Got Stephen here in the 523 machine. Looks absolutely beautiful. Let's just have a quick chat here with Steve. How are we doing? Are we ready for this? We feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good, but this is the first time I've been to Donington and the second time I've driven a car.
Wow, well, I'll tell you what then, you're doing all right. I mean, you know, there's a few cars in front, but don't worry about that. What did you make of it in qualifying?
Yeah, I loved it. Really good, yeah. I did spin out, but that was my own fault, and I had a blowout puncture.
Well, there you go. You won't have that in the race. You'll be absolutely fine. And we think it's dry, isn't it? There's no worries.
That's the problem, whether you go for wets or dry.
Yeah.
I'm going for dry.
I personally think that's the right call. I know we just had a bit of rain, but I don't think it was enough, was it, really, to worry?
There'll be a dry line, hopefully.
Fantastic.
I'm crossing my fingers.
I'll cross my fingers and toes for you as well. So thanks for talking to us. There we go. Oh, by the way, little Kermit the Frog is coming for a ride as well. What's the story behind that?
He's been on every race car I've had.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, good luck. Good luck. Bring him home in one piece, won't you? There we go. Silhouette race one about to get underway here at Donington Park. Dave, over to you.
That's okay, just waiting for the cars to come out from the assembly area then. It will be a rolling start for the Classic and Modern Motorsports Club promoted Intermarque Silhouette Series, sponsored by Image Wheels and Avon Tyres. Let's have a confirmation of the grid then. The Smith brothers on the front row. I remember Lewis Smith had to go in the Volkswagen Racing Cup with the Scirocco a few years ago. Ian Hales, former oval racer, along with his dad Derek, mainly in Legends cars, starts on row 2 alongside Russell Humphrey. He's raced in endurance events with his BMW E92 M3 in the past. Ruben Taylor, graduate of the short ovals of the Southwest in the 49 Peugeot. Vauxhall Tigra's the most numerous cars on the grid and the most numerous in national hot rod racing over the years as well. Some of the more unusual shapes out there, the BMW Z4 of Keith White, been racing that car for many years now. His brother Colin, of course, very successful Ginetta racer among other things, former national hot rod world champion. The cars heading out from the assembly area now on their green flag lap. Dan Fisher, incidentally, further back on the grid, the regular pickup racer, he's in Chris Ayling's Vauxhall Tigra, or the ex-Chris Ayling Tigra. Whether that's changed hands, we are not sure. Phil Young in the ex-Dave Longhurst Mitsubishi Colt. Mick Robertson, I remember seeing him race back in the 1990s in the Super Rods Formula with the Sierra. Baz Johnson in his old Grand National Coupe. I can't believe there is one of those cars still racing. Fabio Lafarelli, he and his family regulars in the Welsh Sports and Saloon Car Championship. His son Tyrone actually won it a few years ago in a Peugeot 106 GTI. Fabio in the Corrado with the 1000cc motorcycle. Lewis and Daniel Smith took a win apiece at Castle Combe on Easter Monday. Ian Hales won at Mallory Park. Paul Knight was also a winner there. He's one of our senior class drivers for the over 45s. Scott Apriliano had a pole position earlier this year. The second race each weekend has a partially reversed grid. So 20 cars we should see out there for this one. This will be a 15-minute race. Unfortunately, I've not been able to locate a championship points table for it, so I'm not sure who's on top in the 2023 season. Just had an update from Rod Birley, club racing legend. just tells me that Colin Smith blew his engine in qualifying, unfortunately, so he's not out. Keith White is top of the senior drivers in qualifying. Well, there they are, the silhouettes. It's all Mercedes front row, the Smith brothers. And their father Richard further back in the maroon coloured Mercedes. Colin Smith, incidentally, no relation to the other three. Here we go then. The Avon Tyres Image Wheels CMMC Intermarque silhouettes. Let's see how they get on around Donington Park. These 2-litre engine machines. Power comes on. Listen to the howl as they head down the Wheatcroft straight towards Redgate. Daniel Smith in blue on the inside. Lewis Smith rather on the outside. I'm going to get the Smiths mixed up. I'll apologise in advance. Ian Hale's tucked in behind them as they swing their way through Redgate for the first time. There's that Pontiac Grand National Coupe of Baz Johnson, number 9. A name I used to watch in my youth at Hensford Raceway. Try not to get too nostalgic again. Daniel Smith leads then, the Battle of the Mercs down the hill. Ian Hale's in third place. Somebody running out a bit wide there through the Craner curves. That may have been Phil Spinks, tricky to tell with the bit of a glare from the sun. There's the Brian Laram car being driven by Lee Rogers, a car swap for them this weekend. It's up the hill towards McLean. Somebody a bit slow at the back there, I notice. There's might be Steve Phillips, yes, the Autocross Fiesta. Through come the midfielders. There's the blue and white Tigra, that's the Chris Ayling car being driven by Dan Fisher. Here come your leaders, and Lewis Smith's taken the lead from his brother Daniel. The number 24 takes it up. Here comes Ian Hales though, always an aggressive driver in the ex-Matt Simpson Tigra. He's up to second. Smith from Hales, then it's Smith. Keith White, the leading senior, in fourth position as they come up over the line for the first time, ahead of Phil Spinks. It was Spinks who carved his way past Russell Humphrey into P5, the black Tigra. Phil Spinks used to race national hot rods in, among other things, a Citroen Saxo. He didn't see many of them on the short ovals. There's Ruben Taylor, the Peugeot, number 49, with number 3 Paul Knights in behind him. Took an overall win at Mallory Park earlier this year. Down towards the Craner curves. There's Fabio Lafarelli in the green Corrado. Steve Phillips at the back in the Autocross Fiesta. The car that was slow away, I thought somebody was. Whether he had a moment on the first corner we didn't see, was Scott Apriliano in the Peugeot 206 hatchback. He's dropped quite a long way behind. Here's the battle for the lead then, and Daniel Smith is fighting back in the blue Mercedes. Daniel Smith is the championship leader. Thanks again to Rod Birley for the background info. Side by side, almost for second place. Smith trying to squeeze down the inside, but Ian Hales cuts across, so Smith will try and go round the outside instead. He keeps his foot in, and he goes through. Now that shows that most of these drivers are ex-short oval racers. They tend to get even closer than circuit racers do, mainly because on a quarter-mile oval you have to get that close because there isn't room to race in any other way. Ian Hale's back around the outside. Keith White's catching them there in the Beamer. Now who's completing the top 5? It's David York. He's come through well in the grey and orange Tigra. The coach company owner runs P&D York Travel in Staffordshire. Oh, the problem's there. That's a spin eventually for Richard Smith, Smith Senior. He was one way, then the other. He was every which way there and finally spun it. Goodness me, and somebody else is off. That's Ruben Taylor. That's at the Craner curves. So it's still slippery out there, clearly. Ruben Taylor's gone off. That might be a safety car if they can't get that moved away, or is he sufficiently off to the side of the road? So the race settling in again then. Keith White's closing on the leaders. He's the top senior in the points. There's Richard Smith. He's got going again in the number 4 as his 2 sons battle it out for the lead. There's Dan Fisher chasing Mr. Cheese, Phil Young, in the Colts. There used to be a couple of those racing national hot rods. I think it was Jock Burgoyne who absolutely destroyed one of them in a crash at Hensford. And up the inside, was contact there. Get off, says Phil Spinks, as Paul Knight tries to dive down the inside. Russell Humphrey in behind them at the 51. This is good stuff so far from our Intermarque silhouettes. This is the fight for 5th. York, Spinks, Knight and Humphrey over the line. Through Redgate they go. There's yellow flags at the Craner curves. Yeah, the safety car I think is being deployed because of Ruben Taylor's stranded car. Just had a notification come up on the timing screen. There's the safety car is being deployed. Now let's have a look again. This is what happened to Richard Smith a little further back. He got up the inside to try and take Russell Humphrey, lost it, went one way, then the other, one way, then the other, then the other, then the other, and finally spun it. He'll be dizzy after that. Valiant effort to try and save him, though. That was more like a disco dance than a spin. Right, the reason for the safety car, you can see in the background there, just to the left of the bridge, Reuben Taylor's car's in the gravel on the inside of the old hairpin. Now, what did happen to Reuben Taylor? Let's see if we can see. Camera lens a bit misted up, but you can see there he just goes straight on onto the grass. There's no grip there because of the rain earlier. Sideways, here comes the gravel, digs in, race over. Okay, so we wait for the marshals to clear the stranded car. There's the safety car in the background, it's coming down the Craner curves. The Ford Focus Estate safety car has picked up our leader, Lewis Smith. The race order then is Lewis Smith ahead of his brother Daniel. Ian Hales in third, then it's Keith White in fourth. He leads the senior category. Paul Knight is fifth, ahead of David York, Phil Spinks and Russell Humphrey. They were having a good scrap, those four. Lee Rogers is ninth in Brian Laram's car. And John Price, number 267, there, the Dayglow orange and white car, rounds out the top 10. That car reminds me of the colour scheme that Gordon Bland used to race in National Hot Rods for a few years. Fabio Laffarelli, the invitation class car, is 11th. He was out at Brands Hatch last weekend in the fastest Mini in the world event. There's the green Corrado. He runs a space frame Mini with a motorcycle engine, the special saloon type car. There's that Autocross Fiesta, Steve Phillips. What an awesome looking beast that is. One of the newer designs of car for hot rod racing. And Carl Waller-Barrett did take his to the NHRPA Championship at Hensford recently, on the occasion when Scotland's Rob MacDonald won the national championship. He was in a Tigra. Current world champion national hot rods Derek Martin from Northern Ireland in his Tigra, won that at Ipswich in July. There's the other Corrado, that's Mick Robertson, racing that car for many years in various silhouette events. Rod Birley I had earlier, that's the Hun family's old Autocross Fiesta, the ex-Danny Hun car. There's Scott Apriliano, having recovered from a slow start in his 206. It's nice to see the variety of cars out there. That's why they call it Intermarque. Still under safety car, 6.5 minutes of this race to go. They have another race tomorrow. The only class that's finished for the weekend is the MGs. They've had their 2 races. Brilliant they were. We welcome the Kumho BMW Championship tomorrow. Many of these cars powered by 2V race engines. You can see their logo on the back of Mick Robertson's car. One car that's pulled into the pits, number 88, Philip Blackford. He mentioned his grid interview with Ian in the assembly area. They were having 1 or 2 problems with that car, the man from Sussex. So hopefully, yeah, it looks like the inside of the old hairpin is clear. Hopefully we'll go racing again this lap. You'll know when we go racing because the lights will go out on top of the safety car.
very quickly across the track. Passengers announced it. It is, big communication going on there. Look, if you can get across there quickly, we'll be at the end of this lap. And already, Tony Hunter is...
We're up to nearly 350 likes on the stream now. Thank you very much indeed, everyone.
Back into the snatch gap. And the safety car is...
Hi to Bob Gnarly, who says, used to go to Hensford Raceway in the 70s. Yep, the home of hot rod racing. My local raceway. I grew up watching racing there. Hi to Charlie Maroney as well, watching on Top Rallycross Driver in the BTRDA Clubman series. These 2-litre engines, a mixture of Ford Duratec and Vauxhall red top power plants of the kind found in short oval hot rods and many other of these types of cars. Looks like we are getting ready to go racing once again then. Lights are out atop the safety car, so we're ready to resume with Lewis and Dan Smith, the two brothers, in front. They floor the throttles out of the chicane, and we're back underway with 4.5 minutes of racing still to go, so at least a couple of laps they will get out of this at racing speed. Keith White up into 4th position behind Ian Hales. A couple of changes further back. Dan Fisher's dropped back a little in his Tigra. There is the number 62, not 262 this weekend. It's not Brian Larab, it's Lee Rogers, who's to race in the Pickups Championship, the number 69 pickup, the one sponsored by the Chocolate Pizza Company. Yes, really. That's the company formerly run by Lee Rogers' good lady Annie. And I have to say, their chocolate pizzas were excellent. I sampled them at Pembrey once. But anyway, racing continues here at Donington Park. Scott Aprigliano under fire from the recovering Richard Smith after his disco dance earlier on at Hollywood. Baz Johnson gets the Pontiac Coupe sideways. I remember seeing going back to Hensford Raceway nostalgia again, I remember seeing what I think was the first ever meeting for Grand National Coupes when they were started at Hensford. Only 5 cars were there on that occasion, and Baz was one of the drivers. The only other 2 I remember were Antonio Mazzullo, the Italian, and Frank Tarr, the ex-national hot rod racer. No doubt Rod Birley knows the others who were there. Lee Rogers chasing down John Price in the orange and white Dayglow liveried Tigra. Lewis Smith has just done the fastest lap, 1:13.558. He leads by 1 second over his brother Dan. And Ian Hales still in 3rd, a couple of seconds further back. In this first of 2 races this weekend for the CMMC Avon Tyres Image Wheels Intermarque Silhouette Series. Richard Smith making up the places there in the SLK. Given Richard Smith's place of residence in Essex, I suppose you could call him Billericay Dicky. Ian Jury fans will know what I'm on about there. Running wide, John Price at McLean's there. This could allow Lee Rogers to attack. Up the hill, this is for 9th position. Followed by Fabio Lafarelli in the Corrado.
The gap was hovering around about a second from Lewis Smith back to Dan Smith this time through, which around about 1.2 seconds.
Down towards the chicane. Just under 2 minutes to go, so a couple of laps remaining for Lewis Smith. He and his brother Dan have been dominant in the series over the last year or 2 since Malcolm Blackman, formerly number 91, moved on to pastures new. And a spin there. Is that Richard Smith again? It is. Oh dear. Phil Young just missed him there in the Colts. Poor old Richard Smith, another gyration. Very easy to do coming out of the chicane if you get too much power down. Let's have a look again. Watch the background. Watch for the maroon Mercedes SLK. I think it was Richard anyway. We just caught a glimpse of it. There he goes. Round comes the back end. Mick Robertson just misses him, so does Phil Young. 1 minute left on the clock then. Still your leader is Lewis Smith from Dan Smith, Ian Hales. No change up front. Here's a battle further back. This is the battle we were looking at. Scott Aprigliano has got the Peugeot ahead of Phil Young and Mick Robertson in the Corrado. Yes, back in the 90s I watched him in the Super Rods in a black and yellow Sierra alongside the likes of Frank Birch, Dave Poole, David Larkins. Who else was there? Jim Brown in the BMW M3. I do apologise for getting all nostalgic and nerdy. We're into the last lap now of this Intermarque Silhouette Series race, and through goes Mick Robertson past Phil Young. That's for P12 going into the pit straight. Lead gap is 1 1/4 seconds for Lewis Smith over Dan Smith. There's the Fiesta of Steve Phillips passing Richard Smith. Dan Fisher's retired into the pits, unfortunately, in the 128 Tigra, the ex-Chris Ayling car. Maybe the car is ailing. Phil Spinks being caught by Paul Knight. This is the battle for 6th. The checkered flag will be readied any moment now. Here's your leader. It's going to be a win for Lewis Smith in the number 24. Comes out of the chicane, across the line, takes the checkered flag. It's a family 1-2. Brother Dan comes over in 2nd. And they're well clear of Ian Hales in 3rd in the ex-Matt Simpson Tigra. Keith White will take the senior class win in 4th, just holding off Dave York over the line. Paul Knight will take 6th position. Oh, Phil Spinks has put it in the gravel on the final corner. I was just about to say, where's he gone? And he's axle deep in the gravel. Bad luck, Phil Spinks. So that means Russell Humphrey will take 7th. Fabio Laffarelli, the invitation class runner, is 8th. 9th goes to Lee Rogers. And Scott Apriliano comes from last to 10th after a problem at the start. Then Robertson, Young, Price, Johnson in the Pontiac Coupe. And the only other finisher, I think, is going to be Steve Phillips, because Richard Smith, after his spins, has pulled into the pits. Here comes Steve Phillips, one of our newcomers in the Autocross Fiesta. Wonderful to look at, isn't it? Certainly something different. Provisional result then as follows: the Smith brothers 1 and 2 separated by just over a second, and Ian Hales completing the podium. Keith White, the senior class winner, in 4th in the BMW. Then Dave York, a good 5th ahead of Paul Knight. Russell Humphrey in 7th ahead of Fabio Laffarelli, the invitation class runner. Then Lee Rogers and Scott Apriliano round out the top 10. Mick Robertson in 11th ahead of Phil Young. Mick Robertson the 3rd of the seniors. John Price and Baz Johnson. The other finisher, Steve Phillips, who lost Phil Spinks on the final corner into the gravel. And retirements for Richard Smith, Dan Fisher, Phil Blackford and Reuben Taylor.